was 4 years old when Fritz Kramer first came to the White Mountains. He was 37, a classical pianist with an international reputation. He'd been hired by Hubert von Pantz to play at his pre-Mittersill Lodge in Sugar Hill. My father, Enzo Serafini, arranged for Fritz to stay at my family's inn. I'm Barbara Serafini. Fritz was my friend and mentor for almost 50 years. Fritz loved to tell of his arrival. It was by train late at night during a snowstorm. In the morning, he was walking to Franconia when the clouds lifted and the White Mountains emerged in their winter glory. "We are home," he exclaimed, reminded of his beloved Alps in Austria. He arrived every summer after that and filled the inn with his music. He performed at our private club and gave me daily piano instruction. Yes, every day. He spent his leisure time writing and hiking. The White Mountains became his great love. This world traveler had found a new home. He sent a postcard of our inn to a friend and wrote, "This is my family's hotel." Dr. Kramer was a colorful person, and people stood in awe of him. But to me, he was just Uncle Fritz. My mother told of the time Fritz and I were playing a duet for guests. I stopped suddenly, looked up at him and said, "I think you made a mistake." "I did," he nodded, and we continued. Who but an 8-year-old would have dared? His advice came to me often in a lifetime of letters. When I was young and not taking my piano very seriously, he wrote to me about a lecture he had just given to an audience of 50 women. I asked, "Who of you is still taking music?" Nobody was. Who feels sorry to have given up? 50 women were raising their arms, apologizing. They all knew it was too late. "Remember that, Bobby, darling," he wrote. "Milk, meat, sweets are the stomach. With music, you're feeding your heart." His attempts in English were often both charming and funny. Once after dinner at my family's inn, a guest explained she had come to the country because she was recuperating from a hysterectomy. Nodding in sympathy, Fritz said, "Yes, that's what I had." Everyone burst into laughter. Innocently, he asked, "What was it then?" Turned out he'd had a double hernia operation. And Fritz's understanding of American legalities could be a bit fuzzy. Like the time a friend on Cape Cod offered him a car. It had been in storage for 20 years. Fritz just had to go up and get it. He went and got it and happily drove it for several months until one day a policeman pulled him over. "What did I do?" he asked. The cop asked him why was he driving a car with 1945 license plates in 1965. Fritz was baffled. The cop shook his head, told him to get it registered, and left without even issuing a ticket. Uncle Fritz could be very opinionated. When I wrote him how excited I was with the new rock opera, Jesus Christ Superstar, he wrote back, "May an earthquake swallow the theater." Fritz became much in demand in the New York area. He met Eleanore in the 1950s, and they were married in 1960. They shared 28 years devoted to each other and music. Uncle Fritz passed away in 1988. In 2006, Eleanore entrusted Uncle Fritz's ashes to me, saying, "You had better take them now," because they had planned to be buried together in the Serafini family plot in Sugar Hill. "I have something else for you," she said, and she gave me this. Only then did she reveal the story of her life. She was born in Warsaw in 1926. She grew up in war-torn Poland and became a teacher. In the winter of 1944, they had to flee as the Russians were advancing. Army personnel and people were rushing away together. She explained, "We had to leave all our belongings behind. A soldier gave me 2 army blankets. We climbed onto a truck, open, and I think the blankets saved me from freezing to death. It was the coldest winter I ever remember." Then she revealed these 2 army blankets, giving them to me after 60 years. In 1950, she came to the United States. As soon as she could afford it, she wanted to take voice lessons. Someone suggested a noted musicologist, a Dr. Fritz Kramer. Eleanor had long been looking for a permanent place for Uncle Fritz's library, taped lectures and papers, so others might have access to his life's work. My description of the North Country Chamber Players intrigued her because of his love of the White Mountains and the fact some of the players had been his students at Manhattan School of Music. Eleanor and the players agreed his entire library would come to the Sugar Hill area, entrusted to them for use in their own teachings, bringing Uncle Fritz's knowledge to another generation. After a heart attack in 1960, Uncle Fritz wrote to me in his wonderfully unique English, "I have changed for the better through extended suffering. My heart attack has taken off the best of my life, the mountains. Climbing was the world to me. But then in comes my loving students and even closer connections to everything what's good in music. Furthermore, a great urge to give away and share my great knowledge of it. Because I can't leave it to everybody as a hotel owner leaves his property, but to talk to a multitude and given them my heart, blood, my passion for it, that became my talent. With my departure, it's gone, lost forever." If he could only know. Eleanor not only bequeathed Uncle Fritz's library to the North Country Chamber Players, but her estate as well. Through the generosity of Eleanor and the commitment of the North Country Chamber Players, Uncle Fritz's legacy will live on. Today we celebrate this marvelous blessing. So this is how Fritz and Eleanor will be remembered. This is how his remarkable gifts will live on. Once he told me,
Schubert left, but this is how it happens in music. The good things cannot die.